views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
And out with the music. Oh, I didn't want to talk over that. It was just a nice, soft intro for this episode of B Squared, which is really just B today because it's just Benji. No Brady joining us tonight, or well, this afternoon, or whenever you happen to be listening. I fought with myself whether I wanted to pre-record this or go live, but like I told Shay earlier, if I would have tried to do this and pre-record it, I would have spent hours pre-recording it until it was just perfect. So I decided to go live, and whatever happens, happens. So, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. I'm going to say Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, whatever y'all want to celebrate. But we celebrate Christmas, so I'm going to say Merry Christmas to everybody. And if you were offended, I'm sorry. That's on you. Just saying. What I wanted to do was just share a couple of stories that I have read and some things that I have read over the years that I had to track down again because some people just kind of take this time of year and stuff for granted. And I wanted people to realize that the story of Santa Claus and St. Nicholas, Father Christmas, it's not just something we tell our children to make them be good or just because they believe it. There is an origin to this story. St. Nicholas was a real person. Every legend comes from some form of original truth. Shay, sorry, not sorry. Yep. So every legend comes from some form of original truth. So this is a little bit of background on some of the legend of St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, Father Christmas, however you want to call him. We're going to get a little bit into the man behind the story of Father Christmas. All right. So I'm going to be not paying so much attention to the chat. Sorry, Jen and Shay. But I will be glancing back here and there. But I'm going to be sharing some of this story, really, of St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas was a bishop who lived in the 4th century in a place called Myra in Asia Minor, which is now known as Turkey. He was a very rich man because his parents died when he was young and left him a lot of money. He was also a very kind man. What? Oh, some depictions of Santa were based on the description of Odin. I don't think we're going to touch on that too much, Jen. Sorry. I'm actually getting into St. Nicholas, the actual man that, honestly, most of the Christmas Santa Claus traditions are based off of. Not all. A lot of them have actually jumbled together over the years. But this is one of the origin stories that we're going to talk about today. There are several legends about St. Nicholas, but we really don't know if any of them are true, in all honesty. But he was reportedly a kind man and had a reputation for helping the poor and giving secret gifts to people who needed it. The most famous story about St. Nicholas tells how the custom of hanging up stockings to put presents in first started. All right, and it goes like this. There was a poor man who had 3 daughters. The man was so poor that he did not have enough money for a dowry, so his daughters couldn't get married. For those who don't know, a dowry is a sum of money paid to the bridegroom by the bride's parents on the wedding day. This still happens in some countries even today. One night, Nicholas secretly dropped a bag of gold coins down the chimney into the house. This meant that the oldest daughter was then able to be married. The bag fell into a stocking that had been hung by the fire to dry. This was repeated later with the second daughter. Finally, determined to discover the person who had given him the money, the father secretly hid by the fire every evening until he caught Nicholas dropping in a bag of gold. Nicholas begged the man not to tell anyone what he had done because he did not want to bring attention to himself. But soon the news got out, and when anyone received a secret gift, it was thought that maybe it was from Nicholas. Because of his kindness, Nicholas was made a saint. Saint Nicholas is not only the saint of children, but also of sailors. One story tells of him helping some sailors who were caught in a dreadful storm off the coast of Turkey. The storm was raging around them and all the men were terrified that their ship would sink beneath the giant waves. They prayed to Saint Nicholas to help them. Suddenly, he was standing on the deck before them. He ordered the sea to calm, the storm died away, and they were able to sail their ship safely to port. St. Nicholas was exiled from Myra and later put in prison during the persecution by the emperor. I can't remember how to pronounce this guy's name. I'm sorry. By the emperor at the time. I'm just going to say by the emperor at the time. No one really knows when he died, but it was on the 6th of December in either 345 or 352. In 1087, his bones were stolen from Turkey by some Italian merchant sailors. The bones are now kept in the church named after him in the Italian port of Bari. On St. Nicholas's feast day, the 6th of December, the sailors of Bari still carry his statue from the cathedral out to sea so that he can bless the waters and so give them safe voyages throughout the year. In 1066, before he set sail to England, William the Conqueror prayed to St. Nicholas, asking for his conquest to go well. Interesting facts. How about how St. Nicholas became Santa Claus? In the 16th century in Northern Europe, after the Reformation, the stories and traditions about St. Nicholas became unpopular. But someone had to deliver presents to children at Christmas. So in the UK, particularly in England, he became Father Christmas, or Old Man Christmas, an old character from stories, plays, and whatnot during the Middle Ages in the UK and parts of Northern Europe. In France, he was known as Pierre Noël. In some countries, including parts of Austria and Germany, present givers became the Christkind, or Christkind. I'm not sure how they pronounce that. A golden-haired baby with wings who symbolizes the newborn baby Jesus. Christkind, I'm going to guess, is probably how it's pronounced. In the early USA, his name was Kris Kringle. Yes, from the Christkind. Later, Dutch settlers in the USA took the old stories of St. Nicholas with them, and Kris Kringle and St. Nicholas became Sinterklaas. Or, as we now say, Santa Claus. Many countries, especially ones in Europe, celebrate St. Nicholas's Day on December 6th. In Holland and some other European countries, children leave clogs or shoes out on the 5th of December, on St. Nicholas's Eve. to be filled with presents. They also believe that if they leave some hay and carrots in their shoes for Sinterklaas horses, they will be left some sweets. I find that to be interesting. St. Nicholas became popular again in the Victorian era when writers, poets, and artists rediscovered the old stories. In 1823, the famous poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, or 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, was published. Dr. Clement Clark Moore later claimed that he had written it for his children. Some scholars now believe that it was actually written by Henry Livingston Jr., who was a distant relative of Dr. Moore's wife. The poem describes St. Nicholas with 8 reindeer and gives them their names. They became really well known in the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, written in 1949. And I'm sure everybody knows all 8 reindeers' names. But did you know that Rudolph and Santa's other reindeer might well have all been girls? Fun fact, only female reindeer keep their antlers throughout the winter. By Christmas, most males have discarded their antlers and are saving their energy to grow a new pair in the spring. The UK version of Father Christmas and the American Santa Claus became more and more alike over the years and are now one and the same. Shay says she doesn't know all of them. What? You don't know all the reindeer? Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, and Rudolph. Just and Clarice. Can't forget Clarice. Some people say Santa lives in the North Pole. In Finland, they say that he lives in the north part of their country called Lapland. Jen's trying to Jen, yeah, you forgot to answer. Just saying. But nonetheless, everyone agrees that he travels through the sky on a sled that is pulled by reindeer, that he comes into houses down the chimney at night and places presents for the children in socks or bags by their bed, in front of the family Christmas tree, or by the fireplace. Most children receive their presents on Christmas Eve night or early Christmas morning, but in some countries, they get their present on St. Nicholas Eve on December 5th. St. Nicholas putting the bag of gold into a stocking is probably where the custom of having a tangerine or a satsuma at the bottom of your Christmas stocking came from. If people couldn't afford gold, some golden fruit was a good replacement. And until the last 50 years were quite unusual fruit, and so they were still special. The biggest Christmas stocking, this is just a fun fact, the biggest Christmas stocking was 51 meters, 35 centimeters. That's 168 feet, 5.65 inches long, and 21 meters, 70 feet, almost 71 feet wide from the heel to the toe. It was made by Volunteer Emergency Services Organization, Publica Assistance, yada, 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 in Italy. I can't pronounce all of that stuff. In Italy, in Carrara, Tuscany, Italy on the 5th of January, 2011. Just think of how many different presents you could fit in that. That's a big stocking. Hey, Luna. Thanks for joining my random 12:30 in the afternoon. Let's have a Christmas special show. Some more fun facts about this. Santa Claus is not owned, nor has it ever been owned, and his red suit was not designed by, nor was it ever Jesus, people. Dragging my wife in. She's upstairs trying to watch one of her favorite Christmas movies while I'm doing this, and you're dragging her in. Coca-Cola has never owned Santa, period. Not his coat, not his costume, not nothing. They just keep using him in his advertisements. That's it. Long before Coke had been invented, St. Nicholas had worn his bishop's robes, which were red. During Victorian times and before that, he wore a range of colors, red, green, blue, and brown fur. But red was always his favorite. In January 1863, the magazine Harper's Weekly, which, side note, Waldorf University has Harper's Weekly magazines dating back to 1886. I'm going to check and see if we have them any further back, because it would be really cool to see this, but I think 1886 is the oldest one we have. But in 1863, in Harper's Weekly, they published the first illustration of St. Nicholas by Thomas Nast. He was wearing a Stars and Stripes outfit. Over the next 20 years, Thomas Nast continued to draw Santa every Christmas, and his works were very popular indeed. He must have been really good friends with Santa to have such good access. I'm just saying, we always had Coca-Cola Christmas decorations. Yep, this is true. Yep, Coca-Cola likes to just do their thing, don't they? By the way, this episode is not brought to you by Coca-Cola. Just wanted to throw that out there. They have absolutely nothing to do with this broadcast in any way, shape, or form. Thank you. This is when Santa really started to develop his big tummy and style of red and white outfit that he wears today. Nast designed Santa's look on some historical information about Santa and the poem A Visit from St. Nicholas. On January 1st, 1881, Harper's Weekly published Nast's most famous image of Santa, complete with a really big red belly, an armful of toys, and smoking a pipe. This image of Santa became very popular with more artists drawing Santa in his red and white costume from 1900 to 1930. Santa was first used in Coke advertisements in the 1920s, with Santa looking like the drawings of Thomas Nast. In 1931, the classic Coke Santa was drawn by artist Haddon Sundbolm. He took the idea of Nast's Santa, but made him even more larger than life and jolly, replaced the pipe with a glass of Coke, and created the famous Coke-holding Santa. Coca-Cola also agree that the red suit was made popular by Thomas Nast, not them. Coke has continued to use Santa in their adverts since the 1930s, and in 1995 they also introduced the Coca-Cola Christmas truck in The Holidays Are Coming TV adverts. The red truck, covered with lights and with the classic Coke Santa on its sides, is now a famous part of recent Christmas history. I don't disagree with you there, Brittany. Spreaker does need to update to allow pictures to be posted, because that would be pretty epic. So, moving on to more fun Christmassy stuff, just because I can, because I'm live and I've got you guys listening to me anyway. Haha, just kidding. But also because this is paranormal buzz radio. Here's a question for you to ponder. Why do people tell ghost stories on Christmas? Christmas ghost stories are a tradition going back much farther than A Christmas Carol. Ebenezer Scrooge wasn't the first fictional character to see ghosts around Christmas time. The tradition of a holiday ghost story goes much, much, much further back. Farther, perhaps, than Christmas itself. When the night grows long and the year is growing to a close, it's only natural that people feel an instinct to gather together. At the edge of the year, it almost makes sense to think about people and places that are no longer with us. Thus, the Christmas ghost story. Its origins have little to do with the kind of commercial Christmas we've celebrated since the Victorian age. They're about darker, older, more fundamental things. Winter, death, rebirth, and the rapt connection between a teller and his or her audience. But they're packaged in the cozy trappings of the holiday. Luna's got her coffee or hot chocolate. I can't tell. Oh, hot chocolate. Yep, that's what it is. You made hot chocolate and put candy cane sprinkles in it and didn't bring any down to me. What? That's okay. I'll just come up and get some later. Christmas was celebrated in Europe and the U.S., and it was originally connected to the pagan winter solstice celebration and the festival known as Yule. Happy Yule, everyone. The darkest day of the year was seen by many as the time when the dead would have particularly good access to the living. That's coming from religious study professor Justin Daniels. And Christmas, as a holiday, has a cocktail of elements that invites ghosts. These are short days of the year and a weird mixture of pagan habits and grand religiosity? Huh. I've never seen that word before. Interesting. So between all that rum punch and all the other stuff, a few tall tales are bound to come out. This was particularly true in the days before TV. As we've discussed before, by the time Charles Dickens came along with his Carol in 1863, the tradition of Christmas was fading. In fact, for most people, it was still a workday. The Industrial Revolution meant fewer days off for everyone, and Christmas was considered so unimportant that no one complained. Why am I supposed to say Massachusetts? What? I'm missing why I'm supposed to say Massachusetts. Okay. The decline of the holiday came courtesy of Oliver Cromwell, the Lord and Protector of England in the 17th century, and a Puritan, was on a mission to cleanse the nation of its most decadent excesses. On the top of the list was Christmas and all its festive trappings. Medieval people from Britain and elsewhere also had Christmas ghost stories, but with A Christmas Carol occurring around the same time as the invention of the commercial Christmas card, the 19th century businesses looking to create a new commercial holiday, Christmas saw a resurgence in Britain. And it came with the ghost stories that British Christmas is now known for. Terrifying tellers like E.F. Benson and J.H. Riddle laid the groundwork for 20th century tales by the likes of A.M. Burridge and M.R. James. The ghost story tradition has even made it some way into modern times, preserved in places like the lyrics to Christmas classic It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, which talks about scary ghost stories. Well, yes, I was having a hard time saying a weird word. Massachusetts isn't a weird word. It's a state, Jen. Oh, my gosh. Jen's made me lose my spot. Oh, well. Though to modern eyes, Halloween may seem more appropriate for holiday ghosts, Christmas makes sense. As Dickens wrote, the ghosts of Christmas are really the past, present, and future, swirling around us in the dead of the year. They're a reminder that we're all haunted, all the time, by good ghosts and bad, and they all have something to tell us. Well, now that I've struggled through that, thanks to Jen screwing me up in chat and my inability to read, apparently. Oh. I just wanted to share some of that with everyone. Some of you may have already heard all of that before. Some of you may have never heard any of it. And so in the Christmas spirit, so to speak, no pun intended, I just wanted to share something that I felt was interesting with all of you. This was just a very quick pop-up show, and I thank all of you who joined me this afternoon or morning or whatever it happens to be where you are. I want to thank you all for joining me. And for all those who are listening now and will listen later, thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, Happy Holidays in general. This is why people say Happy Holidays, because there are so many holidays going on. If you're offended by people saying Merry Christmas, sorry. If you're offended by, I'm not going to be offended if someone comes up to me and says Happy Hanukkah when it's Hanukkah, or Merry Kwanzaa, or something like that, because that's the holiday that they celebrate. And they should support the holiday that they celebrate. So I'm going to say Happy Holidays to all of you, and Merry Christmas, as today is Christmas Eve. Everyone, stay safe, party hard, have a wonderful holiday season. Goodbye.